Welcome to MTC Studios. We're excited to share with you details about the Microsoft Government Cloud. Microsoft has the best cloud solutions for government with incredible customer adoption across all levels of government. Federal agencies, Department of Defense, national security, state and local cities, counties, and municipalities. I'm Brian Turch, a technical architect at the Microsoft Technology Center located in Reston, Virginia. Our mission at the MTC is to help our customers understand and adopt Microsoft solutions. Because we are in a suburb of Washington, D.C., the majority of our customers are government, so we understand the unique requirements of government customers. Security and compliance are critical factors for government decision makers. We find that once we educate decision makers and government technology experts about our best-in-class security, they're able to move forward to unlock the inherent value that only the Microsoft Cloud enables. Today we have three distinguished speakers to talk to us about the Microsoft Government Cloud. They all work closely with public sector customers to enable their adoption of the Microsoft Government Cloud. These discussions were previously recorded during recent interviews with Tom Timon of Federal News Radio. First, we have Chris Niehaus, who will share with us what's happening in the Microsoft Government Cloud in the context of productivity, mission-critical applications, and backup while maintaining compliance.
Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Chris Niehaus. He is the Senior Director for National Cloud Programs at Microsoft. Chris, great to have you on.
Tom, thank you for having me.
So Microsoft has a government-dedicated cloud. Tell us how it was built, how it was architected, and some of the thinking behind the way you went about it.
Absolutely, thank you. First and foremost, our guiding principle for all of the services and solutions that we deliver for the federal government or for all government is delivering products that they can trust. And we looked at that view with our cloud products as well. And if you look at our history with Microsoft, with the federal government, we go back as far as 1997 of delivering a dedicated email service to the Army called Defense Messaging System. And really
I remember it well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you shouldn't have been using it at home much. But that solution was developed specifically to meet the compliance requirements of the Army and also to be able to withstand the rugged downrange requirements. And that taught us a lot about how to collaborate well with government. And we took those solutions and we brought them into our commercial products and services. And even those learnings exist today in what we call Office 365 for government, which is a productivity platform email system in the cloud. And that solution was delivered a few years ago, and we continued to carry that forward to round out a government cloud, which now includes Azure Government and CRM Online Government, launched back in December. And this gives us at Microsoft the ability to claim that we're the only hyperscale cloud provider today that offers the full government cloud solution set that goes from infrastructure to data to platform services all the way through productivity and business applications. And so this fits well with our tradition and our long legacy of delivering for government, and we meet all of the compliance certifications such as CGIS or FedRAMP and DISA, and we go even further on some like IRS 1075, which you'll talk about a little bit later. But at the end of the day, what we're proud of is that we can claim that we are a cloud provider that believes a government cloud is only for the business of government and only for government customers.
So does the government tend to ask for a cloud that is dedicated only to government, or
yes,
could you sell them on something that's not government unique, but it's a better shot?
The first time we came into the market, we actually took, there was the FISMA certification or compliance requirement is what was the bar for meeting government certifications. And we were able to do that with our commercial cloud of Office 365. But we learned from that the government still viewed, we have a community and we have a set of bars or higher standards in order for you, Microsoft or any vendor, to really get our trust, thinking beyond just productivity and backup and recovery and actually thinking about mission critical applications. And so we took that feedback very seriously, and we took our entire suite of cloud services and built a dedicated government cloud that is physically isolated, network isolated, has cleared U.S. personnel running it, has 2 data centers only in the U.S. dedicated to it, one in Virginia, another in the middle of the U.S. And that's driven a great dialogue with government going forward.
And so if a cloud, one of the selling points of cloud is that it is scalable on demand,
yep,
or you can pull back on demand depending
yep
on what the demand is.
Yep.
When you have a dedicated set of data centers with finite capacity, how do you handle the scaling issues when government says, hey, we need 10,000 more users all of a sudden?
Well, that touches on a really good point of probably taking a step back, we have a global footprint of data center regions of more than 24 and growing right now. And these range everything from a large, massive regional data center in Dublin that powers multinational corporations in Western Europe, down to the sovereign, what I call the sovereign government cloud that we talk about just for the US, or that sovereign US government cloud. It's all the same technology. It may be physically isolated or have different compliance requirements, but we have a set of trusted cloud principles that span our approach on how we build and manage and operate all of our cloud services that allow us to do that even from the largest to the smallest. And so even our sovereign cloud for US government, we have the ability to quickly add capacity, very instantaneously add capacity, keep growing it. We work very well with our customers to forecast those demands and needs.
Now let's talk about cloud services, because they range from just bare infrastructure all the way up to the complete hosted applications.
Correct.
What do you see in terms of what the government is demanding?
Yep.
And give us a range of offerings that you have from
Absolutely.
Starting with bare metal or infrastructure as a service.
Well, I would actually phrase it more on what have been the waves of adoption of cloud services. The first wave was really around productivity. A lot of customers looking at that hosted email service. And we were in a position where our email service exchange server was really the number one in the market, and we were able to successfully migrate those customers into the cloud. Then when we look at infrastructure, to your point, the scenarios there were more about dev and test, web applications, and disaster recovery. And that wave is still ongoing, and it's required things like compliance, meeting compliance requirements like FedRAMP, and then the DISA levels of compliance as well, which we do. This next wave that we're experiencing right now is actually focused on mission-critical systems, moving those mission-critical applications to the cloud. And those will really come in two flavors. Ones that will have a higher bar for compliance and security that you have to strive and meet, and then others that will maintain the requirement to stay on-premise as well and have what we call a hybrid scenario, where you can connect an on-premise data center to a cloud and securely manage it and control your data. That first wave we're aggressively going through right now, and it's by pursuing what we call industry-specific or deep compliance certifications. One of them is called CJIS, which is the Criminal Justice Information Services. And we partnered with the Justice Department and the FBI to get to a point where we would, as a company, sign the addendum certifying that our cloud would meet those CJIS requirements. And we're the only cloud provider that does that today. And that has allowed for really an explosion of growth around things like surveillance and police video scenarios. And I think anybody watching the news lately knows that whether it's a body camera or whether it's a drone on the border, those types of scenarios are growing exponentially. And we're able to satisfy that need through that approach.
So right now then you're up to everything from email on up to mission-critical applications.
Absolutely.
And data.
Absolutely. And data, while data is exploding in growth, both on-premise and in the cloud, it's the ability to manage it in a compliant way and then do very interesting things with it. So back to the police video one, for example, it's not just the storage of that data, but if you need to run a Freedom of Information Act requirement or manage it from a case management through federal courts, for example, as a piece of evidence, we have services in the cloud that can take that data, index it, slice it, dice it, package it, put it through an actual through an evidence management chain, stamp it, retain it a certain way. So it's not just the storage, it's what's the mission of that required department, and what are they trying to do, and can you do it with cloud services?
So it's your applications and their applications.
Absolutely.
And so the infrastructure is really irrelevant than what's underneath, as long as they get the applications they want running.
I think the infrastructure is relevant as long as it's an open and flexible cloud infrastructure. So I think customers need and demand choice. They certainly want to have the ability that if they're running a set of open source or Linux, they want to be able to bring that in the cloud and not feel like big bad Microsoft is going to stop them from doing that. And we say it pretty openly and clearly. We love Linux. We love open source now, and our cloud has really allowed us to kind of move into that next generation of approach. Additionally, I would say that the hybrid scenario, sort of, I think what you mentioned is that freedom to say, yeah, I have these applications or this data on premise. I'm used to securing it and controlling it. I want to be able to move it into the cloud or have it in both places at once, or have elements of it in both places, and be confident and secure that I maintain that control, that it's secure, and that I also have what I would say is the transparency to understand how Microsoft will manage that. And that actually speaks to our trusted cloud principles, which are security, privacy and control, transparency and compliance. And each one of those we go very deep on with our customers so that they understand what our commitment is to the cloud.
Tom Keene, General Manager of the Microsoft Azure team, will now dive a little deeper into the compliance and regulatory capabilities available with the Microsoft Government Cloud.
My guest is Tom Keene. He is the General Manager on the Microsoft Azure team in the Cloud and Enterprise Division at Microsoft. Tom, good to have you on.
Thank you, Tom, for having me.
And so let's talk about some of the investments in security and compliance. Those are big questions for every organization, certainly true of government. What are some of the security? Let's start with security and then we'll go to compliance, although there's a lot of compliance connected with security.
Absolutely. First of all, Tom, Microsoft is investing billions of dollars in the cloud. We're building data centers, we're buying hardware, we're laying down network, we're making a massive investment in cloud. And in government, we're doubling down on that investment. We've built physical facilities just for government customers across state and local, federal, and even the Department of Defense. And in order to help meet the unique security and compliance needs of government, we've done some extra work. We've isolated those facilities so that only government customers reside inside those facilities. Only people who are inside the continental United States operate those facilities. Those people have unique security clearances and other controls to help guarantee that the people that are operating the service are meeting the unique security requirements of government. So we've really taken an investment that we're making on a global basis, and then we've doubled that down for government to meet unique government requirements.
So it sounds like you might have gone a step or two beyond what's even required by FedRAMP.
Absolutely. So with our government cloud, we started at a very simple level where we said we want to meet the requirements of state and local, federal, and even the Department of Defense. And we've seen a lot of success in the state and local area, and we're moving very successfully into the federal government today, and we're even now starting to work with Department of Defense. So the investments that we've made at a foundational level, we believe set us up very successfully to go and enter lots of markets.
Now, the Defense Information Systems Agency, which was going to be the cloud, decided it's not going to be the cloud, but it might be the go-between between commercial cloud providers and government customers. What are some of the unique requirements and how are you meeting those that are demanded by DISA?
Well, as you mentioned, compliance regimes, security requirements evolve over time. The different threats evolve over time as we see different scenarios play out. And at Microsoft, we've taken an approach of meeting literally hundreds of different controls, and we add to those controls over time. They relate to where we store your data, who can access your data, how we protect your privacy, how we physically control the facility and the access to the facility, how we respond to a security incident. And with each of those controls, the approach that Microsoft has taken is we take the highest possible bar. So if there is a set of different standards, we will meet the highest standard. So as new standards evolve in, say, DISA or in FedRAMP or in any other part of the environment, we will simply take the highest bar, which means that we can meet the requirements of, say, a state and local government. We can meet the requirements for our federal government, whether they're storing, for example, information around an end user or personal information, or be it even backup data. And then we can also meet the standards, for example, for unclassified data in the Department of Defense. So by making that additional investment, by doubling down, we believe we can meet the requirements of anyone, be it the federal government, be it someone storing tax data, or someone storing very sensitive information.
Now, sometimes there's collaboration among levels of government, say in law enforcement, for example, where you would have a state, a local, and a federal entity, possibly, maybe even a defense entity, all in a single environment. Can that be accommodated such that they have a secure way to collaborate?
It absolutely can. And we see a lot of work where there's collaboration between state and local and federal. The work that we've done with CJIS compliance and our FedRAMP compliance means that whatever the requirement, be it for a police department in Los Angeles or a police department in New York, they can collaborate very effectively, for example, with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And then they can pass information back and forth in a secure and a compliant way. And they can even do it across their own network. So they don't have to, for example, transfer information across the internet.
Let's talk about the word Azure for a moment. That's the name of the product. But what does it signify? It's more than just infrastructure as a service. So what is it?
Azure is really two things when I talk to customers. One is it's Microsoft's cloud platform. It's what we provide to all of the Microsoft technology, so Office 365, CRM, Bing, all of our Microsoft services build on top of that cloud platform. And that's what we're investing billions of dollars around the world, building that platform really like a utility, like electricity, water, or power. Second is it's a utility that we provide and sell to customers. We can provide base level core storage all the way through to finished services, streaming video, mobile services, big data, analytics, machine learning. There's a whole set of capabilities that we provide. So for a customer that's, for example, in the federal government looking to store data, we can store data. What we can also then do on top of that data is start to provide intelligence and value. We can detect patterns inside that data. We can democratize the data.
Tell us about ExpressRoute and what that is and how that benefits government agencies.
So with ExpressRoute, what we allow a customer to do is to connect their network directly into Microsoft's network. So if a customer today is, for example, sending large information directly into the cloud, they can then connect directly from their network, the edge of their network, into the edge of Microsoft's network. So rather than sending information across the internet, this gives them a direct and a high bandwidth way to connect into us, either on the East Coast or in the West Coast. And this is something that's super valuable for a lot of customers that are connecting directly and sending a lot of traffic and have made big investments in network. So we're saying don't replace those investments, build on those investments as you connect to the cloud. So what this actually means, really in simple terms, is it allows a customer's data center to be the edge of our cloud. So we allow a customer to continue to make their investments in their own data center, and they can leverage our data center with technology like ExpressRoute.
And the next big push, especially when it comes to the Defense Department and DISA, is you said you're at L2 security level at this point. L4 and L5 is still kind of the holy grail for cloud providers. Where do you stand on the spectrum headed toward that?
You're right. Level 4 and Level 5 are important areas that we're investing in. We're working on right now. We absolutely want to meet the needs of the Department of Defense and the defense industrial base and store that data in our cloud, and that's work that we're doing right now. And we don't have anything to announce today, but I expect we will very soon.
But it's a pretty rigorous process, and they probably come and look at the facility and physically visit and look at the controls you have in place.
Absolutely, and we host a very large number of auditors and third-party people that can come and attest that we meet the right physical security controls, the right logical controls, the right operational controls. And in fact, this is something we do not just in government, but we do it around the world. So we actually have over 30 different compliance certifications and attestations today, which means that we've had people come in from, say, and look at our data center in Singapore or our data center in the United Kingdom. We do the same thing here with our dedicated and isolated cloud in the United States, where we can bring in a neutral third party that can attest that Microsoft is meeting the standards that the federal government has set out.
Since the filming on Federal News Radio, Microsoft has made a number of announcements about cloud compliance and certifications. The Microsoft Government Cloud now has DoD Impact Level 4, Provisional Authorization, ITAR Readiness, and FedRAMP High certifications. For up-to-date information on Microsoft accreditations, please visit the Azure Trust Center. Our final speaker, Susie Adams, will provide insight into the business drivers that are causing government agencies to move to the Microsoft Government Cloud. She will talk about how agencies transition, go hybrid, and scale with IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS solutions to meet their demand.
My guest in this segment is Susie Adams, the Chief Technology Officer for Microsoft's Federal Business. Susie, always great to talk with you.
Always great to talk with you too, Tom.
Susie, let's talk about the business drivers that are making federal and state and local agencies think about cloud adoption.
I think there are a lot of different reasons why agencies are looking to move to the cloud. And in fact, most cabinet level agencies have already started to move mission critical applications like email, collaboration to the cloud, to multi-tenant government systems or public systems. But most are really looking at government community clouds today. And probably the first and foremost is cost savings. Right, being able to take advantage of the economies of scale that you can see, that you can get when you move a big workload to the cloud, and the ability to protect those systems a little bit more efficiently. If you look at the larger cloud vendors that are out there today, like a Microsoft, we have hundreds of security engineers that are just dedicated to securing our data centers and the software that runs in those data centers. And I think what agencies are starting to feel is that perhaps major cloud vendors can actually protect their data in some of these systems as good or perhaps even better than what they're doing today at a much better price point, at a much lower price point.
I wanted to ask you about scalability, because that is always touted as a reason to go to the cloud, because you can scale up or down, elastic, demand if you need that. But how often and how frequently do agencies really scale up or down that dramatically?
I think it really depends on the workload that they're putting in the cloud. On software as a service, you don't see typically an agency add 100,000 mailboxes in a second, or take away 100,000 mailboxes. They might add 1 or 2 or 5, or maybe another bureau joins a particular deployment. But it is much different when you look at infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. So in the infrastructure as a service space, we actually have been working with one of the cabinet level agencies on an app that originally they hosted behind their firewall. And it was just a couple of servers running a simple web application. And within a moment's notice, with some publicity, that particular web application needed to scale to hundreds of thousands of hits. And they really couldn't do it on premise. They would have to gone out and buy all new equipment, stand that equipment up, right, test it, and then deploy it to actually be able to handle that number of requests. In the Azure cloud, where they're hosting this app now, it's simply scaled automatically for them when those requests started hitting the service.
So in some sense, the cloud became a content delivery network, but really on an existing platform that they were already hooked up with.
In many ways, it allowed them to meet the demands that they they couldn't even foresee. Instead, the site would have just gone down, right? And in their case, it didn't. It actually accepted those requests and then scaled and added servers to their particular deployment so that they could handle the number of requests they were seeing per minute and per hour.
And that brings up a good question, and that is how agencies are leveraging what they already have in place, their data centers and other facilities, which they are trying to consolidate but have had some success there. How do they leverage those with the cloud that they're buying, the cloud service they're buying?
And that's a really good question, because fundamentally, we don't believe that it's an all or nothing cloud only kind of environment. We actually believe that hybrid is the way forward and the way of the future, and that there are always going to be workloads that major corporations, federal agencies, state, local agencies are going to need either for security reasons or data privacy reasons or legal reasons, host that data behind their firewall. And so our goal really is to offer them solutions that can exist and coexist in a hybrid environment and allow them to easily and quickly move workloads back and forth depending on their needs and depending on the data sensitivity of that particular workload. And
you mentioned mission critical applications moving to the cloud. Email is certainly one of them. What about agency specific or mission specific types of applications that may only exist in that agency, but really let it do its business?
Yeah, we're seeing agencies really start to look at CRM types of applications, or we call them XRM, decision support systems. And we, for example, announced Dynamics Online, and it's a government cloud, very similar to our Office 365 for government and our Azure for government. And we're seeing a lot of agencies now begin to move those types of applications into government community clouds. We also have a product called Parature that helps with citizen services types of solutions, and we're seeing a huge interest in that as well.
So that means that really we're beyond the point where people are worried about their data being stored off-premise, it sounds like. I mean, if you talk about email, there's tons of data that just goes through email systems that may have originated in another application. So it sounds like we're past the early cloud era of worrying about data not being inside the agency firewall.
Well, I wouldn't say we're past that era.
Well, I think worry about it.
Yeah, I think they're always worried about it. Yeah, I think what's happening now is, from our perspective, what we're trying to do is be as transparent as we can about how we actually secure that customer's data. We've really gone to huge lengths to expose basically everything we're doing. We announced, for example, with Office 365 and Azure, we actually have a management API that can allow agencies to actually pull log information on how their systems and applications are running, even in a multi-tenant environment, and pull that information real time to be able to look at what's going on and to help them kind of see a single view or get a single view of their operating infrastructure, whether it lives in the cloud, whether it lives in somebody else's cloud, or whether it lives on premise, all on a single pane of glass. And so I think what's happening is we're actually just helping our customers better understand how we're taking care of their data, giving them access to our third-party audits and all that information, and kind of opening the kimono a little bit more so they feel safer about it.
So in other words, as agencies move to continuous monitoring or continuous diagnostics and mitigation of their own on-premise systems, they can, in effect, get that from the cloud by the delivery of these logs and so forth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the goal, is to be able to allow them to just have that information seamlessly come into their existing systems that they're using and third-party products they're using to actually manage that information.
All right, so what do you see happening in 2016 as we move into that fiscal year, get deeper into it and beyond? What's the next wave that you're going to see from federal and to some extent other agencies in the cloud?
I think it's really a move, they're going to move towards more of almost everything as a service. If you look at kind of the direction Microsoft as a company is going, we really have Office as a service now. We're seeing a huge uptick with many of our cabinet level agencies that they're actually procuring Office as a service, and so they get the updates on a consumption basis, and it's just delivered to them as those updates are available, or they have the option as an enterprise customer to install those updates during a certain time periods during the year. The same with Windows now, right? With Windows 10, we now, and you've probably heard us coin the Windows 10 as Windows as a service, but that's exactly what it is, right? And there's huge security benefits behind that, being able to get the latest and greatest patch without having to go to Patch Tuesday, right? Not necessarily having the latest and greatest feature, but as security challenges happen in the world, and we know that they happen much faster than just once a year, and new issues come out, we'll be able to more quickly address those and keep our customers up to date, right, with the newest, latest, and greatest technology, and they'll be able to pay for what they consume as opposed to just pay for what they're not using if they hadn't deployed it.
I hope our speakers gave you a better sense of the current state of the Microsoft Government Cloud and our commitment to government cloud requirements. The Microsoft Government Cloud is constantly innovating and adding new capabilities. In today's session, we were only able to discuss a subset of our cloud story. The links on your screen will provide more information about the Microsoft Government Cloud. To truly explore how Microsoft solutions can help enable your agency to do more, sign up for a free trial of the Microsoft Government Cloud. Visit this channel again for additional sessions about how Microsoft is empowering government agencies to achieve more. We hope to see you again at a Microsoft Technology Center near you. I'm Brian Turch, and thank you for watching our session.